Welcome back to another episode of the 2024 NBA Draft Prospect Profiles here on the Field of 68, presented by Unified Healing. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Jeff Goodman with me, and today we are going to be breaking down one of the best shooters that we've seen in the college ranks in a long time. That would be Kentucky freshman Reed Sheppard, who was coming off of a season where he averaged 12.5 points, 4.5 assists, 4.1 boards, 2.5 steals, nearly 1 block per game as a 6'2" guard, while shooting 53% from the floor, 52% from three-point range, and 83% from the free throw line. Goodman, we're going to talk about strengths and weaknesses here, and I think it is very clear that the biggest strength that this dude had is as a shooter. He shot, and I kid you not, in the 100th percentile according to Synergy of jump shooters. I don't know if there was a guy in college basketball that had a better points per attempt rate than Reed Sheppard did this past season as a jump shooter. Talk to me about the 6'2" freshman from Kentucky.
I think it's his offensive versatility. I think that's his biggest strength in a way, and how he'll translate to the next level. Yes, he was an elite shooter in college in his one season. Listen, I'm not sure he's going to shoot like that in the NBA. But what we know is Reed Sheppard inherited a lot of his father Jeff's athleticism, right? I mean, he can get up. He can get up and explode to the basket, especially vertically. We know he can really move the basketball. He makes terrific decisions. He shoots the hell out of it. He's got a good mid-range game. Offensively, there's not much you can poke holes at. Defensively, different side of the coin. We can certainly say there's a lot of room for improvement on that end. But offensively, I just think like Reed Sheppard, to me, is that guy that you can kind of plug and play right now. And he's got a body that can probably handle going into the NBA and making an impact right away because he is strong. You know, he is built pretty thick, and he can play both backcourt spots because of the fact of his ability to, again, play on or off the ball. I just, again, I love everything about Reed Sheppard for the most part, other than the fact that, you know, defensively, he's a liability at this point.
Yeah, I think that is my biggest question with him, right? I fully expect him to shoot it like this. Maybe not 52% from three, but I fully expect him to be an elite shooter when he gets to the NBA. I don't think you go through an entire season shooting the number of shots that he took. It was over four 3-point attempts per game. You don't shoot at that level the way that he shot at that level and not have it translate to the next level, right? My question is whether or not that is the other stuff will translate. Like, is he a point guard? Is he a primary creator? Is he somebody that you could put in ball screens and ask to go make a play? Is he somebody that can be more than an off the ball player or a kind of a second side playmaker, right? Like, my question is he a point guard or is he a playmaker that you need to put next to a bigger point guard? Like, does he have to have a Tyrese Halliburton on the floor next to him? Does he need a Luka Doncic? Does he need one of these like jumbo initiators to be on the floor because he is 6'2" and somewhat limited defensively? My issue isn't the shooting. My issue is, will his ceiling translate to something where he can be the primary guy, or does he have to be a secondary player at the next level?
I think certainly he starts as a secondary player. I think he starts as a guy coming off the bench, to be honest. Depending on what team he gets drafted by. Eventually, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that's the biggest question mark with Reed Sheppard, right? Like, what is his ceiling? Can he be a guy? Can he be a dude that you can kind of, I'm not saying he's an NBA All-Star, but can he be a guy you build around, build your franchise around? Or is he just a, fourth or fifth option on a team, or maybe a first guard coming off the bench as a true combo that you can plug in and just say like, hey, he's not really a one or two. He can play both. I think that's kind of how I envision him. But if you're drafting him in the top 5, which is where he could go, you're hoping for more than that. You're hoping for more than a combo guard coming off the bench. You're hoping for a guy that, again, may not be a guy that is an all-star or franchise player, but at least somebody that you're saying, okay, I know I can count on him for, 12, 15 points every game, 4 or 5 assists a game. He can be that type of player.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most likely outcome. And frankly, in this year's draft, that's probably a great outcome for anybody that you're getting number one, number two, number three, number four, number five, number 28, no matter where you draft. If you get someone that's going to be a functional starter for a decade, like you hit a home run in this year's draft class. The thing that makes him so let's talk about the defense now, because I do think that that's something that's really interesting, right? Because the instincts are there. The anticipation is there. He has great hands. He's elite when it comes to jumping passing lanes. He's a guy that is instinctual on that end where he can kind of go make a play, right? And I think he's a better on ball, like one-on-one defender than he probably got credit for. Where he really struggles is when it comes to understanding where he's got to be in help side, when it comes to understanding the rotational stuff, when it comes to weak side defense, and all of that stuff. To me, when you got a guy that's got the basketball IQ that he does, all of that stuff can be coached up. I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about is he's 6'1", he's got a 6'3" wingspan, and while he's got a nice vertical, like he's not the functional athleticism is not something that's going to be comparable to some of the greatest point guards that you're going to find, the most athletic point guards that you're going to find at the NBA at the next level. But I also keep coming back to the fact that like the stuff that he does just pops when you watch the tape on him. He's one of those guys where you watch the film, you see the success that he has, you see the physical limitations, you understand that that was a question we had about him going into college, right? And Jeff, I'm not exactly breaking news here. It didn't really impact the way that he played at the college level. He was an All-American level player this past season. So I don't know. I'm kind of at the point where I'm willing to write off some of those physical limitations and things that you see on paper and just say, watch the film, see how good he's been. I'm betting on him.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like, and again, we saw him a bunch in AU ball. And the other thing I'll say is like, he's just a winning player, right? He's just a good culture winning player type guy as well. And yeah, for his defensive liabilities, and they were there last year, he also played in a team with a lot of defensive liabilities.
Whether you are a world-class athlete or a podcaster like me, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. After a 6-month season loaded with cross-country travel, I can promise you that proper recovery is a priority for me these days. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this episode of The Field of 68. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or the EE system. If you haven't heard of the EE system yet, you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. Whether you're here in New Jersey or at one of the hundreds of other locations across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. If you're interested in experiencing the EE system technology for yourself, go to unifiedhealing.com/unified68 to learn more and find a center near you. That's UNIFYD healing.com/UNIFYD, the number 6, the number 8. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment, and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including the EE system.
So it's hard. It was hard to single him out. You know what I mean? It probably depends on who you're playing him with as well. Because to be honest, I'm not sure if Derek White or Drew Holiday ultimately put on that Kentucky team would have been great defenders, because there were so many other issues defensively with that group. So, again, I think Reed Sheppard's one of those guys that, again, you know what it is with Reed Sheppard? While we're saying you don't know what you're getting in a lot of ways because you don't know what his upside's going to be, you know what you're getting. You know what you're getting out of him because, again, he's going to make the right decisions. He's got a high IQ. He's going to make shots. He's going to move the ball. Like, all that's there. You don't have to worry about that. There'll be a trust factor with Reed Sheppard for the most part. I think on the offensive end and even on the defensive end in terms of where he needs to be. When a coach tells him what he needs to do, Reed Sheppard is going to do it. Now, is he physically going to be overpowered by a lot of guys in the league, whether it's athletically, physically, going up against bigger, stronger guards? Yeah, there's going to be some of that for sure.
Yeah, and just to reiterate what you're saying, when we say we don't know what you're getting out of him, it has everything to do with his ceiling as opposed to what his floor is, because he's going to be who he is. At minimum, I do think he's going to end up being a guy that's going to spend a long time as a role player in the NBA, whether that's as a lead guard or as an off guard. Let's go into the NBA comparisons a little bit, because I have a whole bunch of guys written down here, and I think it kind of depends on whether or not you view him as a point guard and he can play that role, or view him as an off guard and he can play that role. But the two that I had written down at the start were Derek White, who you just mentioned, if he's going to end up being as more of a complementary piece. And the other one, if he ends up being a point guard, how about Mario Chalmers, a guy that comes in, ends up being a career 36% shooter from three, right? A guy that averages like 9 points and 4 assists over the course of a 10-year career. And somebody that plays on a team that won a couple of NBA championships when he was with the Heat.
Yeah, I kind of like that one. That's not bad. Malcolm Brogdon, a little bit for me. Combo guard, again, shot the hell out of it, knows how to play at a high level, not gifted with the ultimate, in athleticism. Again, it's hard with Reed because he is athletic vertically. He's probably not as athletic laterally as you want him to be. That's probably the bigger question mark with him. But, I think Brogdon is obviously a little bit bigger. Like that's the worry, again, as you went back to with Reed Sheppard, is, measuring in at what, 6'1.5", something like that.
Yeah. Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon, both of those guys, he's not quite the same size as them. I think that he's a little bit shorter. Another one that I had written down was JJ Redick, if things kind of go into a best case scenario for him.
I don't love that
in terms of being a guy that's just like best case scenario as a shooter. Worst case scenario, I had written down Jared Bayless, kind of a career at that level, but none of those are my favorite comparison for him. You ready for my favorite comparison for him? I'm going to see if you can get this. This guy's, he just finished his 7th season in the NBA. He won a national title in college. He was a red shirt for another national title when he was in college. He's kind of developed into one of the, this past season specifically, one of the best complementary scorers and one of the best shooters in the NBA this past year. He averaged 15 points, nearly 4 boards, nearly 3 assists, and shot better than 40% from three on almost 9 3-point attempts per game. At 6'4", pretty good athlete, and a teammate of Jalen Brunson's, one of the Nova Knicks, Dante DiVincenzo. What do you think about that?
That's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah, it's not a bad one. I mean, again, I think Reed is better with the ball. I'll say that. I think Reed's better with the ball in his hands, and he can play some point. That's the difference to me. I think Reed Sheppard truly, and I actually think Reed Sheppard probably needs to be more 1 than 2 at the next level, and he can be. See, I think he can be, because how many guys get pressured?
No, I think he can be. I just push back a little bit on needs to be.
Well, I mean, he's 6'1", so 6'1", 2 guards are not exactly what you want at the next level. It's going to be hard for him guarding those guys. That's what I would say. It's like, that's the hardest thing. You are kind of what you guard in the NBA. And if you can't guard it too, do you want to put, I'm trying to think of some of the two. You want to put him on Jaylen Brown?
No, but what I think that if he is in a situation where he is on a team that has a bigger lead guard on it, right? Like, so that's why I'm saying, like, he can, he's a little bit limited in terms of the versatility aspect. So I get what you're saying. I just don't think he has to be a point. I think you can play him off the ball, but if you do that, you're going to have to put him in a situation where he's got somebody that can guard the bigger wings.
I think
on the
he is
floor
a
with
point,
him.
though. I think he is more of a point, is I guess what I'm saying. Even take the height aside, I think he's more of a point who can shoot the hell out of it and again, makes people better consistently. I think he's got great court vision. He passes it well. I do. I think honestly, I think he's got way more point than off guard in him.
Yeah.
Way more.
I don't know. We just didn't really see it that much. Like when
Well, yeah, because those other guys had the ball in their hands and a lot of them were dribble, dribble, dribble. And when he got the ball, what did he do? He moved it. He moved it. He made the right play.
It's different to be a ball mover than it is to be a point guard in the NBA. Like a point guard in the NBA is going to be the primary initiator. And I'm not saying he can't do it, right? I'm just not sold that he's going to be able to do it at the level that you would need to be a top 5 pick as a point guard in the NBA. And
again, forget about the top 5 pick. Throw that out of the window because nobody's a top 5 pick in this draft.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm not, he could get there. I'm just not sold that he is going, like I said, going to be a guy that you can trust to be a primary initiator, which is why I like the Mario Chalmers comp a lot, because he kind of could, like, I mean, he was the point guard. He was also on a team that had LeBron James as the player that you needed to be that that kind of lead guy. So either way, I do feel comfortable in saying that both of us are very high on Reed Sheppard as a prospect, very high on him as a player, and think that he is someone that is very much worth a top 5 to top 10 pick in this year's draft class. So make sure you guys keep it tuned to the Field of 68. We're going to be rolling out about 30 of these NBA draft prospect profiles all the way through the NBA draft. And on Wednesday, June 19th, we will be dropping a live first round mock draft with some of the best draft experts that you'll find on the internet, on YouTube, and on and covering the sport overall. So until then, for Jeff Goodman, my name is Rob Dauster. Keep it tuned here. We'll have more of these profiles coming up on the Field of 68.